Potts is an executive coach. She is a keynote speaker and the best-selling author of the book, Every Leader is a Coach. She has over 30 years of experience building and scaling high-growth technology and EdTech companies, and Pamela works with founders and senior leaders to develop leadership capability at every level. She is the creator of the Leader Coach approach and the OMO method, and she helps these leaders build strong, accountable teams and scale their impact without burnout. So if that sounds like you, at burnout, approaching burnout, saying, I've got to adapt and adjust, but I know that maybe what got me here won't get me there. I need the help of Miss Pamela and her thoughts on sustainable leadership, letting go of control, and everything that's wrapped up with that. This might be the most important podcast you ever watch or listen to. So let's get to it. Miss Pamela Potts, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. It's a new year, and
yeah.
Here we go. Let's make 2026 count. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
I love fresh start.
Yes, and a fresh start doesn't mean ignorance, right? It means you learned some stuff, you've been through some stuff, but now it's time for this fresh approach. And how does that relate to the value that you provide? What are you all about? What has you excited these days?
What has me excited these days is the ability to really see the impact that the leader coach approach, when people understand it, how it impacts their leadership, and which impacts then all of our lives, especially as business owners and entrepreneurs. It's very hard to separate our life and our business because we're so busy at thinking and doing the thing that we want to do that we oftentimes work and play all at the same time. So when we can influence that, anything that we learn at work, we can bring to our full life, and things that we learn in our full life, we can bring into work. So nice. We're all integrated.
Yeah, transferable skills. And before we hit the record button, you mentioned this idea about there's like the hustle and the grind and doing so much yourself, and it maybe creates so much success temporarily to a point, but then it comes to that time when you say, well, if I keep on going this way, I'm stifling my own growth or my business's growth, or I'm approaching burnout. And then you have to kind of shift those gears and do that painful experience of maybe handing off some tasks or slowing down or having others do the work, or kind of like growing up in a way. So, I mean, what is that all about? What is the message that we need to hear?
When I first started my first business, I did it based on skills that I had. And I saw a need in the marketplace, a gap, and I created a technology company that was in education. And I was teaching people technical skills. I loved all of that. And I loved the teaching part of it. Along with the teaching part of it, oftentimes people would ask me then to do consulting. So I got into database development, website development, a lot of things with advanced Excel. And at the time, Microsoft had a database product called Access that you could do a lot of customizing. I got into a lot of that work. And one of the things that I would do was really, it would be then me and the computer rather than me teaching. And as I look back and reflected with the work that I was doing, I loved teaching people. I loved taking things that were very complex and making them simple. But when it came to me and the computer working and programming and just knocking out a project, I had no energy for it. And I thought that it was a time management issue, or I thought that it was something that was wrong with me that I need to quit procrastinating around. What I realized as I learned more about energy and the energy that you bring to your work, that completely changed me, because I realized that I had run up against things that I was drained by, and I was having to push through. And it's a completely different thing than when you're energized by something and you love it. Ooh. And that understanding, it's different than skills. It's different than something that is a strength or a weakness. It's energy. And something that drains you. For some reason, that clicked in my brain a little differently, and it helped me so I didn't beat myself up mentally. and keep thinking, okay, I got a better time management. I have to do this. So what is wrong with me? Why do I keep procrastinating around this? And then I'd put something off, letting other things take priority during the day. And then I had a project deadline and I worked for, hours and hours and hours to get things done. And I was exhausted and burned out. And then I lived my life in that place of I'm exhausted and burned out. That's not sustainable.
Hmm.
And so that, because it happened to me, I realized the impact that it made when I understood how I'm energized and how I'm drained. And it gave me information that empowered me to make choices in a better way and
Ooh,
make better decisions.
very cool. Well, that's relatable for a lot of us, right? That saying, well, I can do the thing or do the teaching or get to this client deadline or do what lights me up. And so what I'm getting from what you're saying is how
Mm.
important it is to be self-aware and to be curious. It's like when you were back in school and
Mhm.
you had to take like PE and you had to take history class and like science class, but that gave you a little sampling of
Mhm.
of the different aspects that if you tried it, you might be surprised at how it gives you energy. And it's like, ooh, that's maybe more of what I should pursue. And I can definitely relate to maybe the FOMO, the fear of missing out that goes with that, right? Like I look at, well, ooh, there's those software projects I had like 5, 10 years ago. Like, why did I kind of neglect those and let those die to go more of what excited me? So there's a whole mess to unpack there. But I know that what your process or your kind of origin story led you to this leader coach approach. Is that right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So being in learning and development and in professional development for many years, I have seen so many times where people go to a workshop, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well. You go to a workshop, you go to maybe an offsite, you're there for a week, you're super excited about it, you're going to go back and implement these ideas, and you get back into the whirlwind. And
Mhm.
a week later goes by, and you look back and go, okay, I haven't had time. Now I'm going to apply something that I've learned. And then another week goes by because you're in this whirlwind, and we don't get better oftentimes because we're not kept accountable, so to speak, or we're not coached to kind of implement it. And what I realized, even when I have had a coach, that I'm better at implementing because I have someone that's keeping me accountable to the plan. So if I want to make some changes, we know we have to have some accountability. And oftentimes in leadership, we leave development of our team to someone else. We send them off to a training and development course, or we go to a class, we send them off to a class, but then we really don't know how to help them implement that and how to keep them accountable to that, or even maybe learn some of the things that they learned. So that leader it's an important role that leader, not only just in that reason for like the accountability piece of it, but when we realize that our job as a leader is to develop our team. Our job as a leader is now to get results through other people, not just ourselves, but through other people. And how do we do that? We need to learn how to coach. We need the skill of coaching to be a better leader. And that's the gap that I saw, that we don't realize that. A, we don't realize that. And B, we don't have the skills for it. So
And then,
realizing it, changing the mindset around that, and the leader's job is to develop our people, and then giving people skills. That's the leader coach approach right there. I mean,
very
that's
cool.
the reason behind it, I should say.
And I know that you're big on this realization that a huge percentage of these leaders, they aren't trained on this. They don't even know they should be trained on this. There's that Peter principle where they kind of rise to the level of their incompetence, and there's new tasks, activities, mindsets they should implement, and maybe they
Mhm.
don't even know that they need this training.
Correct. Absolutely. The challenge that we have is that 83% of leaders have never had formal training. And so if we look at that part of it, most of us are winging it. Most leaders are just learning as we go and trying to figure it out as we go. And we're trying to solve all these big problems along the way. we don't have time. This is what I hear from oftentimes from leaders, is that I don't have time to coach. Well, if we look at what we have time to do or what demands our time as a leader, 24% of our time is spent resolving conflicts. What happens if we were able to coach out conflicts, help empower people, and help them learn how to solve problems on their own, where we don't become the bottleneck, and we transfer that 24% into more positive energy and to empowering and equipping others. We could change our lives.
Of course. And I feel like this kind of the new way of thinking of saying, well, I'm putting out the fires and I don't have time to not put out the fires. And you're saying that, well, there's the value in maybe more maturity and being proactive. And it seems like embracing the boring, right? It's like if you have some place to go and you're always late, maybe leave 15 minutes early. And these problems that are happening in your business, you're always playing cleanup. Maybe get these things written down, get coach others, be accountable, revisit. And I mean, what do you think is the secret? Am I on the right track here that maybe these dull, boring tasks are the answer?
I love when you're saying that, because do we actually name it and label it that way? So if it's dull and boring for you, if you think about those things that are dull and boring, is it something that is just draining your energy?
No, it's not as exciting as the drama and the stress and the anxiety of winging it.
Oh, you like change then.
Yeah,
You
I like the
like the
chaos and the
uncertainty.
passion. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people don't like that. Some people don't like the uncertainty. They want more certainty, or maybe they don't like change, or maybe they like, here's a really a common example. Okay. Some people are very strategic. Their mindset is very strategic. They're very planning, long-term oriented. Some people are very detail oriented. They need to implement and execute. So they need the details to be able to execute. When you get two people that are in the room and you've got different ways of approaching it and thinking about your work, one is planning, creatively thinking of new ideas. The other one is listening, going, oh my gosh, okay, I need more details around this so that I can actually do something with this and implement it. And the strategic thinker is maybe not as detail oriented. And again, it's not always this way, but this is what happened to me, is that I'm a very strategic thinking, where I've got a coworker that was very detail oriented, and I drove her crazy and she drove me crazy, until we realized that actually, you know what? We need each other, because she needs to be able to have my ideas and where we're going and creativity around how we're going to problem solve. And I need her to have a detailed plan about how we're going to implement it. And we can understand each other in that way. And instead of it being something that's a clash, we use it as something that really brings us together to make it stronger.
Ooh.
And you mentioned something about self-awareness and curiosity. Those are two things that are super important. I believe leaders, the foundation of their leadership really needs to be built on self-awareness. And when you know yourself in that way that I was even talking about earlier, am I a strategic thinker? Am I a detailed person? Am I creative? Do I not like change? Am I a people person? Do I like more task oriented? I mean, there's a lot of questions that I get into when I'm coaching people. And we can also learn to pay attention to those things and self-coach. So we can understand and start to notice the things. And how I like to start is that place of, do I enjoy things? Or do I not enjoy things? What's giving me energy and what's actually draining me? And how can we then label that, so to speak, call that out and be aware of it, so that we know what we're doing and how much energy it's taking from us? And then how can we actually create some strategy around our time, where maybe the things, what I recommend are the things that are draining for you. Don't do those things if you can avoid it. Find somebody that can come in, hire someone to do the things that you don't enjoy to do. and then keep your lane, build your business, especially if you're a business owner and an entrepreneur. Can you then build your business around what gives you energy? We can do things a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah.
Get the same results and do things a lot of different ways. So how can I make it work for me and how I'm energized so that I can sustain the work long term?
Oh, very nice. So it's so important to know yourself and know what you're good at, not good at, strengths and weaknesses, what you like and don't like, and to for no other reason than to avoid the clash, the awkwardness of saying, well, I'm trying to do it myself, or I'm butting heads with this other person. And when I talk to some of these maybe leadership type people, I know that they're big on the assessments, right? There's like the strength finder and the disc and all those sorts of things. And so for the scenario you lay out here of, say there's some other team member and you just keep on, not working together, but you say, hey, I'm more of a analytical thinker and they're in this other way. Like, are you a fan of any of these like personality tests or taking that assessment to know how the puzzle pieces can fit together?
Absolutely. What's nice about an assessment is it gives us common language. So I think that's an important thing. So we can actually give these things that we feel and experience a name, and we can call it out. I think those are things that are really important. And also we can be aware of it, and we can kind of give that. We know, I think if we really start to listen to ourselves and pay attention, one of the things that I talk about is the coaching piece of it. And you mentioned the OMO method that I have a coaching method called the OMO method. And the first, the OMO stands for observe, map, and optimize. So the first thing that we do is we start to observe it. And we want to observe it without judgment. So we want to stay curious. I don't feel that we can be curious and judgmental at the same time. So when we're observing ourselves or observing someone else, maybe someone on our team, and we're noticing things, and we're noticing things about ourselves as well, let's stay curious. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why I'm doing that. I wonder why I'm thinking that way. I wonder why they're doing that. Instead of judging it, and just that first level that we see, especially, we oftentimes judge it because it's different than how we think. And maybe it's complementary, and we actually need them in our lives to help us be stronger as a team.
Ooh, and that's a harsh life lesson right there, right? Like, just because someone thinks or acts differently than you, your maybe caveman, cavewoman brain wants to default to like, well, they're not like me. They're not smart. I don't like them. And I heard some like Tony Robbins audio a bunch of years ago. He was kind of doing some funny skit almost. And he was saying like, well, say you're a visual person and you talk a mile a minute and you want to see all the charts and graphs. And then you need to like pay your water bill, and the person who picks up, they're more auditory and they're talking really slow and they're looking you up in a catalog and turning the pages. And it's like, well, your default is to be frustrated and say, well, they're not like me. And so you're saying, well, them not being like you is good because you can accomplish more together that way. And it's like when you hire an accountant, right? Maybe they really enjoy doing taxes or figuring out payroll, so they're in the role that they should be, and it's great when people work together in that way. So you and I have jumped around and talked about all kinds of fascinating subjects. I feel like I'm almost visiting a therapist here, but you have a lot to say, and we're in our final minutes of our conversation. So I want to make sure that we focus on what's important to you. So what do you think might be the missing question in our conversation? What should I be asking you? I just don't know to ask you.
Well, we've talked about understanding ourselves. That's an important thing. That is the foundation, as I was mentioning to you. I actually have what I call the 10 best practices of a leader coach. And the first thing is self-awareness. And the second thing is understanding our energy and our energy management. So those are the things that we've been talking about as the first two. And the foundation of those things are approaching your conversations with curiosity and not judgment. staying open-handed, it's like staying open instead of closed. We even look at our body language, it's open-mindedness or closed-mindedness. I think those are really, really important. The thing that I find often to be true is that leaders believe their role is to make or is to problem solve. When we think our role is to problem solve, then we're asking, in essence, the people that are working with us on our team to bring us all their problems. And sometimes they bring problems to not necessarily want the answer from you, but to actually be validated. Or maybe they just need to ask more questions to get more clarity. So there's some things that if we can understand that when a problem is brought to us, ask a question first. So if we can shift from solving to asking a question, and that becomes our response is more of asking a question, you're down the path to being a leader that coaches. And when we can coach and coach the best about our teams, then we're going to be stronger together as a team. We have a lot of hidden potential in our teams, and maybe a lot of hidden potential in ourselves as well. And I just want people to understand that. Look around and find the greatness in yourself and in your other people that are around you, your team, and let's create something that's powerful together.
That's wonderful. I like it. And what you just mentioned there seems to be like relationship 101. I wish I'd known that decades ago, that in any context, right? Coworker, employee, marriage, friendship, family, whatever, if someone comes to me and opens up some kind of problem, well, is that really my problem to solve? Are they really asking me to solve that problem? And we've all had conversations like that throughout our lives where it gets so frustrating when I'm just looking to get some validation from a friend and they're trying to solve it for me, or I'm asking for answers and they're just kind of not really helping. And so it's like the communication is so tricky and so important, but they don't teach this in many schools. And maybe we've gone a whole lifetime without even knowing we should be developing some of this. But hopefully in a podcast here, we got a taste, a tease about what we can look into as far as those first steps, including the self-awareness and how to communicate better. But a podcast being only a taste, a tease, it's not the main course. It's not the full meal. It'll get us on track, but it won't really get us that lasting progress that we really crave. And so as far as some next steps here, if someone was really impressed by what you had to say, like I was, what should they look into? What should that listener of the podcast do next?
Yes. Well, I'm happy to share my book with you. I have a book called Every Leader's a Coach, and I've got it, of course, as a hard copy on Amazon. And I also have a link that we can post if you want to post it in your show notes, but it's go.leadercoachapproach.com/book. And they can go there and they can purchase an ebook. And I actually have a code for you if you want to post that. I think I had given that to you as well. So we can post that and let them get a discount code so they can get that. And then that's a good place to start. And I have courses and I have coaching and I have leadership development. I have a program called the Certified Leader Coach. And I'd love to have people be curious about that and join me there to learn more.
Very cool. And this is such an important skill to develop, right? If you want to get hired, succeed in your career, succeed in a workplace, succeed in a team, as an entrepreneur, make your company work well and your team members work together, look into some of these skills and develop them and apply the strategy, the best practices. And the place to do that, the place to take that next step that Pamela mentioned is go.leadercoachapproach.com/ebook. And when you get there, you type in discount code RP2026JAN. That's RP2026JAN. And that will get you 90% off for that very excellent book, Every Leader is a Coach, the proven system to unlock greatness in your team and yourself. And we've been speaking with Miss Pamela Potts, author of Every Leader is a Coach, about these really important life skills as far as developing people and sustainable leadership, letting go of control, and so much more. And for soundbite purposes here, Ms. Pamela, at the end of a podcast, I like to really frighten, scare my guest a little bit by asking them about a fun or interesting quote or lesson that has served them. So what comes to mind for you as far as a fun or interesting quote or lesson?
Well, I've said some of my favorite quotes, but I believe you can't be curious and judgmental at the same time. That's one of the things. You got to slow down to speed up. You have to slow down that conversation so you can empower and speed up later. And I think one of the things is that look for what energizes you. And it's okay to stay and focus on some of the things that sometimes we often miss because we don't experience the joy. And I want you to have joy in the work that you do. And let's make the world a better place by being able to bring joy to the world.
Let's do it. I love that. It's a wonderful message. So take care of yourself, take care of others, bring joy, and get some stuff done, right? It doesn't have to be so miserable. You don't have to work so hard. You can work smarter instead. And your next step for that is check out this book, Every Leader is a Coach, The Proven System to Unlock Greatness in Your Team and Yourself by Miss Pamela Potts. Get it at go.leadercoachapproach.com/ebook, discount code RP 2026 Jan. Miss Pamela Potts, author, speaker, executive coach, has been a blast speaking with you. Thanks for stopping by.
Well, thank you for having me, Robert. I appreciate it.